The Fall Guy is directed by David Leitch and stars Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt and is based off the old TV show from the 80s starring Lee Majors. And here, a down-and-out stuntman must find the missing star of his ex-girlfriend's blockbuster film. There are unfortunately only a handful of directors right now working in Hollywood that are given permission to make movies on the scale that The Fall Guy is made. David Leitch happens to be one of them. His films like Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, and Bullet Train have proved that. And I hope that this movie does really well for him too. You're going to hear this a lot. This movie is absolutely an ode, a heartfelt hug to every stunt person ever, to the entire stunt industry. There's a scene in the film where Ryan Gosling's stuntman is asked if stunts are awarded an Oscar, and he's like, nope, not at all. Which is so messed up. They should absolutely have a stunt category at the Oscars. Just this year, the Academy finally announced that casting directors would be recognized by the Academy in the future. But stunts, for some reason, are still left in the dust. Despite the fact that they are the glue that holds the movie industry together. I mean, every single big movie that you've ever seen, even small movies, you need stunt people. And this film finds a very clever way of taking characters that are trying to make a movie while also weaving into it a real life problem for them when their lead star goes missing. And our stuntman, played by Gosling, has to navigate a series of events of increasingly difficult obstacles to try to figure out exactly what happened to him. And of course, his stunt guy abilities come in handy along the way. The film is very self-referential and meta in that it's a movie about people making a movie, but in some cases, that's what I enjoyed the most in the film. And that might not be for everybody. Some might find it a little annoying. The movie has quite a bit of terms thrown around that are very movie set related and stunt people related. And of course, David Leitch, being a stuntman himself in the past, was the perfect person to make the film. But for me, someone who essentially lives off of movies, this was so much fun. The opening scene in particular is one of my favorite opening scenes I've seen recently. It's a very long take following Gosling's stuntman as he prepares for a very epic stunt, and you don't break away with him as he checks every single safety measure and talks to everybody while also being on the walkie-talkie with Emily Blunt. It's a genius way to open the movie and introduce the audience to just how much movie lingo is going to be in the film. It's a David Leitch movie. It's an 87 North production, so I don't have to tell you that the action sequences are very well handled. There's tons of stunts, of course, in this film, and they all look great. Gosling does a fair amount of them himself. One of my favorite sequences being when he runs into an old scene partner of his, which just so happens to be a dog that is trained to do various stunts, and because he knows this dog from a movie in the past, he knows what commands to give this dog to help him out of a sticky situation. So really great idea, fantastic scene. But at its core, this movie is really a romantic comedy. It's just got a lot of action as well. Emily Blunt being the first-time director of a massive science fiction epic, and Ryan Gosling being the sort of reluctant stuntman returning to set after they had a fling in the past. And watching these two go back and forth with one another, often in front of crew, I just couldn't help but think, oh man, if this was like a real movie set, this would be really weird for all of the crew right now. But the film found a really funny way of handling it in this scene where they go back and forth on megaphones in front of all of these stunt people who are also dressed up like aliens. And I think that's where The Fall Guy really finds its stride, in not only supporting the movie industry and especially the stunt people who make films happen, but also knowing when to poke fun at things that happen on set, and finding humor in the more absurd situations that often happen on film sets that are viewed as normal, but to your everyday audience watching this film would probably think that's pretty strange. The movie is a bit longer than I thought it was going to be. I didn't know how long it was going in. It's a little over 2 hours with credits. And by the way, stay for the credits. There's a lot to enjoy and a lot to respect. Definitely watch all of the credits. But when it comes to the storyline of this missing movie star played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, initially it was honestly a little bit confusing. You jump back and forth quite a bit. Gosling is in his apartment at one point, attacked by someone. You're not exactly sure why he's being attacked. It all kind of seems thrown away really quickly and frivolous, and nobody's really taking it seriously. And while that kind of approach to comedy works for some of the movie, there are parts where I was like, this is kind of a life and death situation here. I feel like you would be more scared. and I just wasn't necessarily feeling that danger element because sometimes the characters just don't take the situations they're in seriously. And this plot that's introduced of the missing movie star, it did take a second for me to feel like it was being incorporated into the film naturally. It really felt like the movie wanted to be on set with them, with Gosling and with Blunt, and their relationship and the bickering and the bantering and all of the looks and the charm. The film was absolutely on fire during those scenes, and at first it took a while for me to be invested in this backstory of what's going on with this movie star. But at around the midpoint, it really picked up and things got a lot more interesting after that. I would say the way I felt about Bullet Train is pretty much the way I feel about this. Great action sequences, fun characters, good dialogue, a tad confusing at times, and there's a lot to follow. There's quite a bit of backstory that's handled very quickly. This one actually has voiceover from Gosling's character, I assume to help us out a little bit. But really, this movie is a rarity nowadays. Yes, it is based off of a TV show that most people don't really know about or reference anymore. And it's certainly not exactly like that TV show. The plot of that show is very different. And so, in many ways, this movie is restarting. Like, yeah, sure, it is an IP, and there's going to be people who watch the show in the 80s who go to see this movie. But for the most part, all young audiences did not watch The Fall Guy starring Lee Majors, who are going to go watch this movie starring Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. It's also a massively large movie that doesn't seem to care all that much about sequels or franchise viability. That's great. I mean, any movie that opens with this exact clip from The Rundown, the most underrated movie The Rock ever made, earns my respect. So go see this movie. I want to see more films like this. I had a great time at the theaters. My entire audience clapped afterwards. It's a film that makes you feel good, has a lot of thrilling sequences, and is very funny. I would love to see more films like that. So thank you guys so much, as always, for watching. Look forward to more videos very soon. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.